Hello everyone, this is Commander Trium, once again, talking to you from the Elite Universe. On a day when we're engaged in trade to try to earn money, we need 51 million credits plus at least another 9, so 60 million credits in order to engage in a much-needed thruster upgrade to alleviate heating problems that we're having with the FSD, as well as other systems on board my new ship, the FNS Valoria, the cargo vessel. And we'll begin by talking to our Commander Squaddle again. We'll do it via wing request. Doesn't seem to be responding. It's Commander Nanhat. Okay, we don't seem to be getting anywhere with that.
Call unsuccessful.
And we are going to continue our efforts by ferrying resonating separators to our target port. And let's see if we can just find loops with our current set of variables already specified in a web browser near the system here. We can also double check our position in the galactic map. How close are we to the more lucrative system in the Alliance we tracked down yesterday? The name of that system is Sierra Tango Foxtrot 1774. Ooh, it's 152 light years away. We can do it on 1 tank of fuel. It's going a bit deeper into Felicia Winters' area. Which we will do now. We're running ballast up to the Hertz system. Starport services, please. Let's just make sure our crew is staffed, positions are correct. Okay. Preparing for exit from this part of the galaxy to a different part, where hopefully profit will be more easily obtained. It's confirmed we're running ballast. Departure commencing.
Follow the greens on your way out.
Welcome to our station.
Course laid in for the Hertz 13422 system.
Frameshift drive charging.
45.9 light years. Preparing to engage drive. Jumping the ship. Now just 111 light years from target. We're 6 jumps from our target system.
Frameshift drive charging. Frameshift drive charging. Temperature critical.
Four jumps left.
Frameshift drive charging. Temperature critical. Incoming hail.
Hello?
Hello?
You can cancel your comms request now, we're in a wing.
Yeah.
It'll shut off, you know. So, there you
I
go.
had to find the right one.
So, how are you today?
Oh, I had to tear apart my motor control, clean them up. They're getting a little bit dusty, scuzzy, and dirty and grimy. Starting to have problems with sticking.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it happens.
it's going to happen if you play lots of games. So I decided to get my butt to the Alliance. I found out how to get my ship to actually fly the 50 light years. I was hauling a bunch of cargo, which I didn't even know I had, so I sold that at a profit somewhere. And now I'm able to jump 50 light years, and just two jumps from target system. Just Sierra Foxtrot. Oh, sorry, Sierra Tango Foxtrot 1774. It's in the Alliance-held territories.
Work on getting the faction and reputation of the Alliance now.
Well, I'm gonna just do trade up here. And then last night there was a weird bug. I hope it's not persistent. I had a situation on a planet where I had deployed my fighter, I docked my fighter, landed the ship, and tried to pull out the SRV, and I found out I wasn't able to. It just, the deploy wouldn't light up. Oh, and I just realized what that was now. I forgot to turn on the SRV bay. Due to energy constraints, it takes like 4% extra power out of your distribution grid. So if you turn it off when you're flying around not using the SRV, but
I usually got things shut off if I don't need them. Most of my ships will surprisingly do pretty well on power management.
yeah, well, I do okay on the
or combat either.
I'm doing okay on power management, but
Full impulse.
I'm gonna have to spend some time tomorrow going and finishing off some missions.
Galaxy map.
What's that?
I got voice control stuff going. It's kind of cool.
Oh, I see.
My son got a kick out of it to control the throttle for 1/4 impulse when you say it.
Yeah.
A woman's voice says something along the lines, "Would you please hold on a minute," while she's taking a dump and flushing the toilet. So, I mean, I can feel like I can screwball shit with it. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of mundane things like call up the auto docking. Now I just say a command and it does it. It's kind of nice.
I had an interesting chat with Nate Dogg, a guy from New York.
Nate Dogg again? Is that that one that... I think that's the one that I met that one time with you.
Yeah, we were grouped together. Hang on, I'm one jump away now from target system.
What's that guy doing?
Well, he's still due out in Los Angeles, so I don't know if he's moving or if he's been given an offer yet or what's going on. He had to leave in a bit abruptly at the end of yesterday's conversation, but here, I'm going to go explore this planet. It's not really... Freighter is not really the best exploration vehicle, but... Oh, well, I don't like that.
Basic medicine's back and forth. I got about 40-some million credits. Yeah, 46. I've made a few runs today between tearing my controls apart and fixing them. And ran around town and the wife ran a few errands.
I ran a big risk today. I decided it was time for me to indulge myself with my my paycheck that I got, and so I treated myself to McDonald's the first time in a month. And I went for a run.
Once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, you can't eat McDonald's daily for an entire year. It would probably kill you. I don't know. Someone did try it, but they ended up throwing up or like having GI problems. It's not healthy for you at all.
No.
It just isn't right. Okay, we're at our last...
There's this one company that makes voice control software.
Yeah.
They got basically, you can download, they got a sample one.
Yeah.
You can only program up to like 20 commands, and it works for games or what you can program it for whatever you want. I mean, you can program it to just run regular functions in a computer or predict spectating purposes, whatever.
Yeah.
But they got some pre-programmed AI personalities that run with it. They can buy for it and shit like that. It's kind of cool. Figured I'd just download the free thing and check it out, see if it's something I'm actually interested in.
Yeah, stuff like that they tend to want money once they've, because I mean, voice recognition software is not cheap to buy, even now. Like the technology.
This stuff is like maybe 15, 20 euros or something. It's a British company. So I figured try it.
And then,
It's like amusing when I got some gal pounding off stupid shit, flushing the toilet after she gets done taking it.
yeah.
But then again, for an 11-year-old, I mean, that shit's just amusing, but can't say I don't find it amusing either. I'm not much more mature than my 11-year-old.
I see.
If you haven't noticed this already.
Aluminum. Vizicano City. Okay, so
Aluminum is something that I machine on a regular basis.
Yes, well, I'm going to have to go to Vizicano City. Destination now locked into the nav computer. We are spinning our huge-ass haul freighter around. And it is about 700 light seconds.
1/4 impulse.
It didn't recognize it. Command not understood. Please restate.
It understood my command just fine. Ship stop. Stop ship. Stop. Throttle down. I don't remember what command I programmed that one for. Request to dock.
Dum 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 dum. Well, I know that I did not take very kindly to the initial releases of the voice recognition software, and now that I'm engaging in building videos, I don't generally want to issue commands that way. If I can do it from a push-button interface, it's going to inevitably be...
Well, from forums I was reading, people that use the Oculus Rift and then the one that you're using, I can't think of the name of it at the moment.
It's the Oculus Rift, yes.
Oh, okay, the other one that I can't think of.
The HTC Vive.
Yeah, there you go. The ones that use the VR helmets, you get a big benefit out of it since they have problems seeing some of the controls and stuff, I guess.
Oh, do they? Well, I thought the Oculus Rift was... I heard that the HTC Vive is a little bit more tunnel vision than the Oculus Rift, which the Oculus Rift...
I was reading forums that says that VR helmets in general, it's convenient to have because you don't have to fight looking around trying to find stuff as much.
No, you don't, because... Yeah, it is. I mean, I would never go back to console. I've said that many times.
No, I don't have a problem with a console because it's... Well, like I've got a 4-monitor display or a 3-monitor display for my game, and then another monitor off to the side to put other stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I could have saved some money. I could have purchased $600 worth of video card compliance equipment as well as another monitor, and then I also would have
$150 on my graphics card,
which is about the same Canadian, I guess. It's about 100 and, well, it's almost 200 Canadian actually.
Yeah, but it's not bad price.
No, it's not. It's not as much as the Oculus Rift, which is $800, but
Yeah.
the Oculus Rift also came down in price since I purchased it by some measure. I purchased it, I had a full year out of it, and then they reduced the price. So, yeah, I could have waited a year, or I could have bought another monitor. In the end, in the long run, I saved myself a little bit of money because it's come down in price about $200 Canadian, at least at the big box stores.
I'll tell you one thing. Even if I had a VR helmet, which I would like to have, I think it'd be fun to try it at least.
Yeah.
Even if I had one, I'd still keep all my monitors.
Well, of course you would. Why wouldn't you? You can have
Nice to have monitors.
you can have both, but
Yeah.
and that's
Can't really use both at the same time, though, I'd imagine.
no, but there is a side note there. Of course, is that Microsoft with its HoloLens, you can use the monitor with your 3D interface because you can see it's translucent, you can see through it. But the one thing that they did say from Frontier Development, hang on, Frontier said that they would not be supporting the HoloLens right off the bat because it was going to be a little bit too convoluted. Plus, the HoloLens is really for business more than it is. It's to give you a workspace, a virtual workspace that's a little bit more advanced than just an ordinary desktop when you're at work. And so that'll likely come along in the next few years for, you know, affordable prices for home users, but not right off the bat. So I figured, yes, the Frontier, it will end up going back on its word and it will support it, but not immediately. So I went with Rift for that reason. Otherwise, I would have just gotten the waited for HoloLens to come into its own and purchased it pretty much as soon as it was available because I would get multiple different applications out of it, including using Elite.
Well, if you can get multiple uses and multitask out of anything, that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Never go wrong.
Hang on, I just accidentally tripped my thruster button and my freighter ended up going backwards through the starport dangerously. Okay, so now, hang on. And now we have to buy aluminum, apparently.
Touchdown. Clear to offload. Outbreaks of disease reported at this facility, Commander. Avoid quarantine zones at all costs.
Oh, there's medical outbreak in this system. Which means we have to look and find out.
You might be able to take advantage of it and ferry some basic meds around.
Yeah. The date I'm using is 2 days old, so I don't know how long this outbreak has been going for.
It depends on how fast people jump on hauling meds. I've had it go for a week straight right now, and other times I've had it go for a few hours.
Yeah.
Right now I'm on day 3 here in Tangaroa, so as long as it holds, I'm going to keep ferrying materials around.
Well, demand for advanced medicines is skyrocketing. It's at 14,753,353. They are suffering a huge outbreak. Basic medicines,
Price is what?
14.7 million for demand.
Per ton?
No, it's 14. The demand rating is 14.7.
Oh, how, okay.
It's demand, the demand column.
Price.
Sell price is 3.195 million per ton. Basic meds are 4.527 per. Well, if it says it's per 100,000.
4,500.
Yeah, it's at 4,500.
It's 4,000. What I'm selling for here. So you got a good deal if you can pick it up for. If you could buy the meds for that 350 to 400 credit per ton, you should easily pull 2 million plus per run.
Well, we'll see. Aluminum is available for purchase at 246 to buy. Sells at 226. So they're selling. Yeah, they're selling this at 226 per. Oh, gold fetches a nice price here too, at 9,384, which is just, they say, is galactic average. Galactic average, incidentally, for basic medicines, 323 credits, and here it's 4,527. And
I'm starting to like this voice control stuff. I don't necessarily need the AIs talking back and communicating.
no.
Instead of going through all the windows and screens to get to the function you want, you just say something, it automatically does it. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. Well, lots of people do use that with the HTC Vive. I'm just a button guy. I prefer hitting a button, and it might help in those more rarefied circumstances where I want to launch a fighter or something, you know. And I've run it.
I haven't got. Well, I did program fighter control. God damn it, you dumbass! You're gonna try and interdict me?
But it's too much to remember as well. Like, your brain can only remember so many button sequences before it runs out of space.
Well, just like with the voice control, I mean, for the most part, you can just regular talking. It's constantly listening to what you say. When you say keywords, it performs that action.
Yeah, but Windows comes with built-in functionality for that too.
Yeah, but does it actually? Windows it already has the engine, so this software basically just uses that engine, the voice recognition, and just tailors it to basically bind to your hotkeys.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it's really not all new technology. It's just using
what's already there.
Using what's there already, taking advantage of it. So, I mean, all I have to do is type in the word I want associated, like if I want to jump to hyperspace.
What really puzzles
it registers it, and then it hits that hotkey for me.
What really puzzles me though is when you see these guys coming out with technology like on the elite groups. Some of them have coded their own voice recognition platform into the download, so that it overrides what Windows already comes with. And that drives me kind of nuts. You're being interdicted.
Yep. Trying to escape is kind of slow and monotonous with this shit, but it can be done.
Okay, so we're going to go to a... Let's see here. Let me just have a look at my other platform. So we can take aluminum... Oh, and it already has factored in the basic medicines component.
Come on, turn.
So they say export aluminum, and you come back with basic medicines, and yeah, you'll get 2 million credits out of that.
Ah, shit. I'm gonna have to sit.
Okay. So let's get our aluminum. Aluminium, as the British say. I don't know why. Okay.
I should just put a damn shield on this ship, drop some cargo for a shield so I can just fight these assholes off and get something off.
That's what Nate Dogs...
Then I lose so much cargo of this ship that...
That's what Nate Dogs was saying the other day when you looked at my video flight logs from work. I'm still a little bit of... You know what I don't like about those video flight logs is that periodically the software platform that I'm using to emulate a capture card, it doesn't... it drops some of the video information that it sends to YouTube, and I don't know what it does with it. It's just gone. So I get interrupted, like introducing myself at the beginning. And it just doesn't come back. It just puts up that Be Right Back logo or whatever that comes with XSplit.
So whenever I'm logging in and turning Elite on, I get a little blue box down on the bottom. Basically, then I can hit Windows something, Windows C or something.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's just a regular Windows function. That way I can record just off Windows 10 using, and it'll record game sessions or something. Or
well, it does. It just doesn't do it very efficiently. I did try that as a solution at one point, but it doesn't auto link with YouTube nicely, and a lot of the capture stuff doesn't do it either. In fact, YouTube uses a media transport protocol.
That other know there's a few guys. The one's a younger guy from Germany. I know he gets on that Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch is another one.
Yeah, he gets on there and he broadcasts his gameplays on there.
Yeah.
He wanted me to go check it out one day, and it meant I have to make a damn profile, make a password.
Yeah.
Register. It's like, no, I don't have the desire to
Everyone
shit that I'm subscribed to.
Everyone is already on YouTube, right? Almost everyone in the world has a Google account. So anyone who wants to use the internet has a Google account already. Google already authenticates you, so it double checks to make sure your email is valid and everything. And then it's,
If you have a smartphone through the Android or with an Android system on it, you have a Google account.
Exactly. So everyone's
have Google accounts.
Everyone has got that. So the Twitch, I abandoned Twitch for largely for that reason. I have used Twitch successfully. It can be used. It is
just kind of live streams and then kind of like YouTube, if I understand it right.
Yeah, it's exactly like YouTube, except it's recording game sessions.
It's not everything under the sun like YouTube is.
It's right. YouTube is more general. In fact, I just finished watching a couple of movies this afternoon on YouTube while I was eating dinner and poking around on the internet looking for stuff. Here's some scary information. Did you know that there's a video out there that claims we are on the brink of being able to upload the electronic signature of our minds to synthetic platforms like computers or Android bodies? So someone is actually working on making human life, like removing any predetermined fixed length on it.
Basically download your consciousness into a computer. It'd be kind of neat. It basically give you immortality. But
basically,
are you downloading your consciousness, or are you just making a copy of it, and you're still in your body, live out your life, and die?
Well, it depends. It depends.
It's not true immortality then.
Do you when you go to sleep at night and you wake up the next day, are you the same person?
Theoretically, yeah.
So if you actually disappear from your perspective, if you remember disappearing out of one body and reappearing in another, then you've achieved immortality, de facto. If it smells like it, looks like it, it probably is what it appears to be.
That gets into the whole realm of philosophy and things like that I really don't get into much.
But theoretically, if you need some physics to base the science on, I mean, electrons are comprised of the standard the subparticles in the standard model. Theoretically, if you could echo those particles through entanglement or some other apparatus and bring them into a synthetic platform, yes, you would physically be downloading every aspect of your real mind into a different body, and there would be no doubt. But how would you measure that? I don't know. It's a level of quantum transference that is, I don't know.
Things like that, conversations start dragging in the legalities, the ethics, the religious aspects, and basically it drags a person into most of the topics I try to avoid, like the plague.
Well, but I mean, it's probably gonna happen at some point, right? Where someone does that.
It will. I mean, I'm not objecting to it happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just curious as everybody else is how it happens.
You know,
But it doesn't mean I want to be the guinea pig to test.
no, and there would still be a purpose to living a existence as a biological being, right? You'd still have children, newborns would still occur, and so on. What you would have to start worrying about is synthetic androids who don't need to eat, don't need to sleep. You know, versions of human beings outside the parameters of where human beings are used to going. As for me, myself, I think I might want to just sleep, you know, for a certain period. I think my mind probably needs that. And
If you think about it, there are people that have, like, a pacemaker.
sure.
They have different machines basically implanted in their bodies to help their failing bodies and failing organs to
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
perform their job.
Yeah,
So technically, they are a cyborg.
yeah, technically, that's
Or
true.
an android, depending on how you want to look at it.
In a very limited way, but still, technically, you're right. Yeah.
Look at my mom. She's got a pacemaker because her heart flutters and acts funny.
Yep.
So it's there just basically keep her heart going. So technically, she's a cyborg now.
I may need that myself. I've got a heart murmur myself, so it's something I'm sort of resigned to in the future, either expand my own consciousness, buying and procuring, extra appendages. But once you're mostly synthetic, how do you maintain the human quality? Can that be done inside of a machine body? I think it probably.
If there is a way to keep the brain from aging, you could basically, with technology,
Keep going for thousands of years. Yeah, yeah. Well, with no predetermined limit is the right. You're not immortal. You're not invincible. I mean, you could still be hit by a train and utterly destroyed. But
well, yeah, but you no longer natural death, old age would no longer have an effect on you.
no, it wouldn't. And you wouldn't necessarily consume anything further from the economy because you don't need food to survive. You might.
Electricity now and then, which is easy enough for you. You can work
Correct.
a 24-hour shift.
Sure. In fact, you could probably survive the vacuum of space if you push it to its logical conclusion. Now, whether or not I'd want to spend all eternity floating around in an empty void, not breathing and not doing anything other than just sitting there, floating further and further.
If you think about it, putting the human brain into a machine would probably be the easiest one to go with.
Probably.
All the brain really needs blood flow, but you could hook up some kind of a pump to keep blood flowing.
Oh yeah, they'll come up with an apparatus.
You need glucose for the brain to burn as fuel and oxygen.
No, you actually need a lot more than that. It's actually far more complicated than even that, because if you put yourself into an empty computer void, like inside of a literal box, you're basically depriving the human mind of what it needs, sensory data. So you have to have some way of giving your five.
I'm saying just the biological necessities to keep it alive.
Yeah, but you could still go crazy.
Yes, you need that.
You could still go insane, and if you don't want to go crazy, so for all intents and
I'm just saying, as far as keeping the brain biologically alive, that's the three requirements.
I suppose.
As far as keeping your sanity,
Yeah.
yes, you still have to be able to see, hear, feel.
Exactly.
Not necessarily smell or taste, but it's getting to the point that smell and taste can almost be.
Well, you can wire that up. You can wire that up to different. I mean, imagine what it would be like to smell a supernova in the void of space. You could probably create that sensation.
Well, there's sciences that can detect different molecules in the air, and it distinguishes what causes those molecules, which is basically what the sense of smell is.
Yeah, but eventually the Earth will also become overpopulated. If we keep just having people, like, we're going to have to start exporting people at some point, because
that's why that Elon Musk dude is trying to get into space.
Well, yeah, and if we don't need an atmosphere, theoretically, we could just colonize Titan as is. We wouldn't necessarily have to. You would only be allowed to visit Earth again if you absolutely needed to, by special arrangement of some sort, I imagine. You don't want the Earth becoming overpopulated with just android life.
I don't think there's gonna be some people that choose to become a full android, but a lot of them will probably choose to live natural lives
and just die naturally.
Eventually die.
Yeah.
Because that's why would you want to outlive everybody else around you?
That raises an interesting religious question. One person many years ago, when I talked about this possibility, first confronted with it in my study of philosophy, he said to me, he was sort of a person who I could go to about my own views on God and spirituality. And he said, well, don't you think extending your life would move you further from God? And I said, well, why would it? And he said, because you'd never die. You'd never experience an afterlife. There'd be no predetermined point in time when that would occur. And I was sort of like, oh, that's true, I guess. You are kind of taking a step further back from God by doing this, in a sense. And I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that completely. But anyway, I don't know what your religious views are, but...
Well, I guess religiously speaking, I was raised Lutheran.
Yeah, so was this guy, coincidentally.
But I also tend to think for myself too, to a certain degree.
I think the original Martin Luther would probably say that's a good way to operate. Within reason, of course, using scripture as your guide, but we can omit that part. After all, I refuse to believe that all the people who came before us, if there is an afterlife, that they didn't have any sense of it more than we do. More or less than we do. It's a big step, becoming an android. I have to think long and hard about when that would happen exactly. But certainly some number of the population, and I think it'll probably be pretty significant, would choose in favor of extending their life, faced with the prospect of oblivion. Human beings are just too easily scared by such things.
Society is scared of its own mortality at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm not...
Yes, I understand. I don't look forward to dying, but I also realize it's part of life.
Well, you can't go on forever and ever. Like, if you don't die in the first 1,000 years, the odds are increasingly likely that some catastrophe will eventually strike you that will smother you out of existence one way or the other. But you could end up with a population that has members of society that are thousands of years old, or even longer. And I just don't know. Like, what do you do with someone who's been around for 1,000 years? The longest lived person, according to the internet, has just recently died at the age of 256. Which is already long enough in my books.
I find that one hard to believe.
He actually produced...
Last I knew, the oldest person was like 122 years old.
Well, that was from recorded history. That was using Western records. Okay, if you go back further, this guy produced a birth certificate or a notice of birth or whatever from China, where he lived, dated, and I'm not kidding you, in the year 1777 AD. Which makes him 256 years old the year that he died. He had apparently ample documentation to prove it, but I didn't review the documents myself, so who knows? But
I don't know. I find that one.
Even if he did produce the documents, I don't read Chinese script, so I couldn't authenticate them. But
also Chinese also look at time differently than we do too.
He looked very old, I will say that. I've never seen a human being look older than this guy. This guy looked like he was a walking frickin' skeleton. And what do you expect after 256 years of somehow managing to, like, prolong your life? But in theory, it is technically, biologically possible to do that as long as you keep everything more or less working. Technically. There's no predetermined lifespan on all of the cells in your body just suddenly up and just coincidentally dying. He claimed, this guy supposedly from 1777, claimed there was someone from his village who exceeded 500 years in his own lifetime. And if that was true, I mean, there's no documents or no proof of any kind to authenticate this, but if that was true, then I'm not entirely sure what the length of our lives is supposed to be. In Canada, we live an average of 10 to 15 years longer than people from the United States. Probably in no small part due to our medical. The average age of death for males in Canadian society currently, as of this year, was 86 years.
Well, yeah, mid-70s is common around here.
Yeah, so I mean, it's about 86 here. That's, you know, the better part of a century. That's not too bad on a world average. But this guy was an extreme case. I mean, on a population of 10 billion, he's the only one that, you know, we've ever encountered. And don't forget, it was just...
Likely he lived in a small rural village where
he did.
It was hard. I mean...
He did, yeah.
Their lifestyle is hard on the body. To live that long in a rural setting, it's tough to believe.
Well, he actually stopped the manual labor part about at an ordinary age. He was asked to teach at the university near Peking, which has been there, God knows, since Christ was a child. He was there apparently at the age and asked to start instructing other students in his methodologies in Oriental medicine at the age of 79. And there was authentication of those documents, so said the story. But it's the internet; you can't believe everything you read either. But it would be interesting. I mean, don't forget, it was only recently we passed the point where there are more people. It was true up until the year 2000, certainly, at least, that all the people that were alive to that point in history outnumbered all the dead human beings that had preceded them in all the years before. There had never been so many people. Like, we literally have infected this planet as a species. And so out of, say an average of 20 billion people, you get the one exceptional case. It's possible, I think. I think it's possible to have someone live for 256 years in a population of 20 billion. That's a lot of zeros. So statistically, he's the only one I've ever heard of that lived that long.
Yeah, and that's if it's completely true. I mean,
it would be exceptional, yes. But not...
The longest I've ever heard of is 120.
Yeah, that's...
22 years old or something like that.
Is that inside the United States, or... I think there was someone made...
That was actually an Italian person, if I remember right.
There was a story about someone from Canada passing the 120 mark recently, in the last, 20 years.
Well, this is something that I read a couple years ago, and I believe the person, I think it's a little old lady who was 122 or 126, something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is possible to, live extremely long if you manage it properly. But for me, it's always been more about the quality of life more than the quantity.
Oh, okay, I gotta change the subject here. This tastes really, really good. My wife made homemade ice cream.
Oh, outstanding. See, it's not totally a change of topic. I'm sure it'll probably lengthen your life by a good number of years.
Well, it just tastes good. I don't care if it makes me die another 20 seconds sooner.
As long as you're those 20 seconds you're not wearing a diaper.
There's 20 seconds less sex I have to have at some point, maybe. I don't know. It's all in how you look at it.
Don't forget, the Lutherans are a Protestant faith, and the Protestants were always a little bit more Quaker-esque than the Catholics.
Full impulse.
Of course, the Protestants were always better at managing money than Catholics as well, because all the Catholic incomes, the tithes that used to be applied, they would take your money and then it would go straight to the church. Well, that was a hell of a deal.
Yeah, 10% is tithes, and then you're supposed to give offerings on top of it.
That's right. Yeah.
Lutherans kind of have the same beliefs.
So you're supposed to be giving up to the point of 15% of your net worth, right? Something like that. I mean, I can't honestly say I make that mark. I really don't. I want to, but I really don't. And not out of choice. If I was independently wealthy, I most certainly would make sure my accountant had taken 15% off at least. But sadly, we're not all independently wealthy.
Well, if you look, I guess I look at it this way: how badly has religion been corrupted over the centuries?
Very badly. The earliest fragment of the the earliest fragment written in the New Testament, they've got it narrowed down to a piece of parchment no bigger than your thumbnail, and it's from the book of Matthew, and it's dated 4 A.D., carbon dated. So that's 400 years after Christ has died, and we're just getting the first transliterated text. It really was something of a loss to lose the great library in Alexandria.
The Dead Sea Scrolls are a couple thousand years old, and a lot of them are still yet to be translated and authenticated. Most of them were found back in the 60s.
Yeah, but haven't they more or less reinforced the restated histories of Judaism as we understand it? They haven't really there haven't been any huge surprises, have there?
Not really. The Dead Sea Scrolls kind of involved both Judaism and Christianity. Because the scrolls were hidden there for about 1,000 years. I mean, it's kind of their library, basically.
Okay, so someone did squirrel them away somewhere and tried to preserve them, but they didn't do a very good job.
Well, they're actually preserved better than you think, but there's so many of them, and of course it costs time and money to have somebody sit and go through them and
corroborate. Yeah, then they have to be corroborated. What fragments belong to which pages of which book, and so on and so forth.
Well, the biggest thing is you almost have to rehydrate them so you can unroll them without them falling apart.
Yeah, that's not an easy thing to do.
No, they're almost better off just a lot of it's waiting until they got the
technology
to be able to scan them and use X-rays to decode them so that they don't damage them.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Although MRIs are pretty good at that now, I think they've got that science pretty well worked out. But oh well. I'm still waiting for this, the Christians spent a good portion of the time immediately after Christ expecting him to come back a second time. That much I gathered from the first couple centuries. When he didn't come back right away, everyone was like, well, when's he coming back, and then only then did they start to realize that, someone should really write this shit down. And they did so, but they did it in 3 different languages: Latin, medieval Greek, and in Aramaic, Phoenician. Did you know?
Hebrew, Greek, or
well, Christ himself spoke Christ himself spoke Aramaic. I don't know if he could read and write. He was a carpenter. He'd have to have been able to probably use numbers. From what my family is also into carpentry, pretty heavily invested in carpentry. So although you'd never know it, yesterday I was actually at the lumber yard here in Ottawa, and I was embarrassed I didn't actually pick the right 2x4 that I wanted.
request to dock.
I felt so ashamed.
Yeah. I can go to the lumber store and buy what I want without much challenge, because, well,
Well, you probably know what you're doing.
I have to know how to do that stuff.
Do you have tools at home, like power tools, table saw, lathe?
Lathe, no, but I do have saws, drills, impacts.
Oh shit! I wish.
don't have them. I've got friends that have my use.
Almost wish I could move to South Dakota now, just for that reason alone. I don't know anyone in the city who actually does any meaningful woodworking.
My woodworking kind of goes to the point of repairing and fixing things, and that's about it.
Well, my grandfather, he built a grandmother and a grandfather clock to be sold. They became the object of family disputes, internal family squabbling. But I'm willed the grandmother clock, and now it looks like I'm going to end up with the grandfather clock. So I'll get the bigger of the two clocks as soon as I can afford it.
My dad built a couple of them in high school. He's got one in his house.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have it shipped out here from Manitoba because I think I'm going to be in Ottawa for a while. But plus, my apartment is plenty large. I've got lots of space here, you know.
The only trick is to keep the cat out of the internals.
Well, no, the cat won't be going inside the grandfather clock. And I know how to wind them. I actually miss the ticking noise it makes. That freaking cousin of mine that lives in the city here, Jesus, she married quite the asshole of a husband, I must say. I could go into it, but suffice to say, it's just, he's a dick. A hopeless, fucking, hateful, piece of shit, narrow-minded son of a bitch. Nickel-plated bastard. And I hope he dies early and allows me to talk to my cousin again. Why she doesn't, well, I know why she doesn't, anyway. It's very ugly, and it's not something I'm particularly proud of, that I actually have this much of a hang-up about another individual from my own family, although he's an in-law, technically.
Can't always love our in-laws. Sometimes we just gotta tolerate them.
This guy, I don't know what the hell kind of warped sense of thinking he has. He figures he came and helped me out in hospital once and that I owe him $40,000 for it. And so he won't give me back my clock now until he gets his money. And I'm like, look, I'm not independently wealthy. He tells me, what are you talking about?
Leave, Doc.
You work in software. You're a high-tech person. I know what they make. Monica used to work in high-tech. A cousin of mine. His name is Monica. So he went on and explained that I owed him $40,000 because I took it from Monica and so on and so forth. Of course, never mind that. He only wants $20,000 of it back. How generous of him. I don't know about you, but if someone owes me $40,000, I'll be asking for $40,000. I won't suddenly just cut a deal out of the goodness of my heart after calling him an asshole. And
like a brother-in-law of mine who thinks I owe him $30,000.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
I told his brother-in-law, I laughed at him and said, yeah, fuck you. I walked away.
Yeah, that's basically, this guy actually hung up on me. That's the other thing that made me suspicious, is like, do you really believe this crap you're feeding me? Like, who the hell hangs up on someone that they think is owed money? Like, if you really thought I was owing you if you thought I was going to owe you $40,000, why are you hanging up on me? It's not usually how debt collection works. You don't get very far hanging up on the people who owe you money. So, anyway, I don't think he believes his own freaking bullshit, but he's disposed to...
Sounds like a con artist or a scammer.
That's what I'm thinking, and I think he also treats my cousin badly, but I don't have any direct proof. I don't have any direct proof of that, but just the way he conducts himself, you know, kind of very, very, well, not gregarious, but obstinate, very stubborn, very definite, very confident about everything that he does and says. He doesn't ever question his own understanding, except, of course, when I'm stuck in a hospital bed and he thinks he can hit me up later for 40 grand. He's all smiles then. Anyway.
If he ever brings it up again, just ask him, well, you better show me some receipts and proof that I owe you this money.
I asked for that. They wouldn't give it to me. So, he can take me to court if he really feels that powerful about it, but he hasn't got a case. Certainly nothing that we would...
That's just it, he's a scammer.
Yeah, he's not gonna get anywhere. You need to have receipts in a Canadian court to prove a debt. It's just that simple. That much I do know.
Well, like I said, I got a brother-in-law who thinks I owe him 30 grand because his uncle, my wife's uncle, helped
Yeah.
him out in his past. Well, we've also basically kind of done favors and helped him out when he needs it for whatever purpose or whatever.
Right.
And his family, you help family out.
Yeah, that's right. That's how I was raised.
This brother-in-law basically got himself disowned from the family. He's not allowed to step foot on the land ever again. My wife's three brothers, all of them have basically been disowned to one degree or another.
Well, Monica.
The one that really stands in good graces with her mom and uncle anymore.
Oh wow.
And of course, my kids, they're basically spoiled rotten by my in-laws. Imagine that. Grandma and great uncle are going to spoil their niece and nephew.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to remind grandma and uncle, okay, you need to stop. Lay off a little bit.
Yeah.
These are still children.
Yeah.
They are corruptible.
Yes, they are. That's why we have laws against such things up here. General rule.
Request to dock.
Mission board. Oh yeah, we have to. Yeah, I can tell.
You're carrying on a conversation, and all I have to do is give simple 1 or 2 word commands, and it does what I want when I want. For the most part, just regular conversation doesn't interfere.
No. What the hell is going... There it is. Crowley in LHS 331. Okay. Computer. What the hell? There's debris fields all of a sudden around the station. It says... Yeah, like... It says debris field. There's like 3 of them all of a sudden. They weren't here before. I don't know where they...
You're just carrying stuff back and forth between stations now?
Well, no, I'm moving over to Crawley. Hang on. It's Crawley LHS 331. So...
How did that trade loop thing turn out that you started last night?
It was profitable, but... Hang on. Shite. 1. I hate typing with this frickin'... Okay. Now, I need you to give me trade data on this system. I need you to map that system. I need you to lay in a course for that system. This is Sheila Nagig. Sheila Nagig. Okay. Yeah, no, it was profitable. I made some good coin, but I need to make more. So I'm just trying to like find the best systems in the galaxy.
Balance that right now, just out of curiosity.
30 million approximately. Just a little under 30 million.
Do you want to know? Do you want me to even tell you what I've got right now?
Probably over 50.
50.8.
Yeah, but I need 60.
That's basically playing for about 3 to 4 hours a day for the last 3 days.
Yeah, I've been talking too much to various people about the last update primarily, but
Landing gear retracted.
okay, here we go. And now we're above a water world, and there's a debris field.
Elements come out.
Oh, did you?
Controller for some reason keeps sticking. I do not understand why.
Did you see anything from space.com come through your mailbox about a new hotel that this... remember the inflatable module they attached to the International Space Station?
Vaguely.
Bigelow or whoever. I think it was Bigelow Hotels in the States. Some big hotel chain. Invested in this in researching this technology to find out whether or not it was viable to have inflatable space hab modules in Earth orbit for tourists to come visit. And you have to undergo a 3-week training program just to visit this stupid hotel in space.
All clear. Darkon signing off.
Frameshift drive charging.
I imagine there's a weight restriction as well. Or is it 3 months? Maybe it's three.
I'd never make it. I'm a fat ass.
But I mean, it would cost more than you or I could afford. It would easily probably top $1 billion to go visit this place. You know, and you could basically be in space for real, and you could, you know, watch television or do whatever you want to do on board the space hab, but I didn't really necessarily see the profit motive. Like, if there's people who are interested in visiting Earth orbit, I guess, but apart from the high-risk adventure seekers, I don't know of too many people that are going to be all that interested in doing this. So I'm kind of doom and gloom about visiting tourists into low Earth orbit, because I think it'll basically.
That's for the top 1%ers in the world.
But how many of them are there really? Like, a few thousand, maybe, that are that can even be qualified to go?
You never know.
And then what happens when you run out of that? Do you start reducing the rate to get to space? Like, they figure you could recolonize Mars one way for if you want to go live on Mars for the rest of your life, you could probably move there for the same amount of money as mortgaging a house by the year 2035 or so.
Well, it cost me $100,000 just to move there to start all over from scratch. Oh, hell no, I ain't doing that.
No, because you already have a mortgage and children, and you're establishing a community. So a lot of people aren't. But if you're single, you know, you're like me, you're single, you're middle-aged or approaching middle age, and you're thinking, you know, what have I not yet done with my life? And you have the money. I just don't think, I think of Mars as being a place to visit, not stay. Unless I was, hugely into terraforming or something and wanted to do research there. But even then, I'm going to want to, take some time off and get back to Earth every once in a while. You just need blue sky at some point. And which Mars has, but there's not as much of it.
Yeah, I don't have the desire to go do that, but that doesn't mean...
No, like I said, if you're into terraforming and want to pursue that as a career choice, then maybe that makes sense, but otherwise it's just like living on Antarctica except with no oxygen. You know, there's not much difference.
Yeah.
And who wants to live in Antarctica? Well, pretty much nobody does, because no one was living there.
There are people that take that lifestyle in a heartbeat. Me? No.
No.
Somebody else? Sure. Quest Doc.
Well, we'll see how it goes anyway. It'll be interesting to watch, but I'm not planning on becoming a participant in the Mars colonization effort.
No, the value that society puts on human life and all their rights and everything else is going to be interesting to see how many people are going to willingly give up their freedoms and rights to go live on Mars and basically have to start civilization all over again. I don't think people realize there's going to be an awful lot of bickering and fighting going on to jumpstart a new civilization.
Well, and you can set up systems to deal with that. I mean, it was done before on this continent when it was taken away from the Aboriginals who used to live here.
that was a couple hundred years ago too, though. How much has society advanced since then?
Distressingly not as much as we like to sometimes believe.
We don't have to run around with a rock tied to a stick and smack each other upside the head all the time to survive.
No.
People are getting touchy-feely about actually having to fight for survival.
Yeah, there will be the occasional emergency, and what can you do? I mean, colonists for, where was it, Roanoke in the eastern United States, they colonized, and I don't know if they ever figured out what the hell happened to that colony. It just kind of disappeared. No one's really sure why. Did the Iroquois attack it? They say no.
How many of these future Mars colonists will mysteriously disappear forever, and their families and society are going to have a fit and sue the companies that built the spaceships to go to Mars? I mean, that's...
Well, I don't know. There's probably some new law that has to be founded first. The United States has, for its part, pretty much got the lock and key on Earth orbit for Americans right now. But every nation on Earth, including Canada, is at liberty to use space for whatever peaceful purposes it wants to. The only caveat is you can't try to weaponize it. But
it's already weaponized.
It's probably weaponized already, yeah. But I mean, there's no basis for suing anyone about any of this without there being, a Supreme Court decision or two to back it up, either in the United States or from The Hague at the World Court. I think The Hague is probably the more appropriate authority where the planets of the solar system are concerned.
Leave Doc.
That, or you could just campaign to become Mars's first governor. Presumably the first colonies will be American colonies. I think it's presumed that is likely
At that point in time, how well is that going to work out if America has control of these colonies? Because the British had control of American colonies a couple hundred years ago.
Well, in theory, you can use your experience as Americans to judge when exactly you should be letting them go and governing themselves for going for Martian self-government.
They're going to end up having to go there and govern themselves. So it's like, hey, you want to get on that bus and go there? Guess what? Don't come crying to us when it doesn't work like it's planned. We're not going to save your ass. You're choosing to leave Mother Earth. You suffer the consequences if you don't succeed. Galaxy map.
On the other hand, there's the other possibility. Americans often maintain dual citizenship, like between Canada and the United States. There are many families between Canada and the U.S. that have relationships with one another, so we maintain a regimen of dual citizenships. In fact, I have a friend here who has an American citizenship, but he never votes or does anything in the American political environment.
Well, if he's not living in America, he can't vote.
No, they actually do have ballots at the embassies for foreign service and for people Americans that want to.
They would have to be under certain special circumstances, but if they do not reside in a local municipality or whatever, however that word is,
right.
they have to be in a proper voting district.
Really?
I mean, if you're in the military, you get exceptions. And maybe if you're diplomatic.
Yeah, well, it's definitely true for the diplomatic corps, because the person who almost beat out Trump for the Republican nomination, guess where he was born? Calgary, Alberta. But he's an American citizen, born and raised.
Yeah, he won't.
Because
if he wasn't born on American soil.
That doesn't matter. It turns out that
that's a requirement of being a president, is you have to be born on American soil.
Well, he was definitely being considered by the Republican Party, and they vetted him, and they also said that he could become president because his parents happened to be in the Foreign Service, assigned as consular authorities of some sort.
If he was born on embassy grounds, yeah, that's considered American territory.
True. But I don't think it was that strict, because an embassy is not an appropriate place to be having children. You should be in a hospital.
It was when Obama became president. That was a big thing, is trying to figure out where he is actually born.
Yeah, but he was born in Hawaii.
His father was from Kenya, and they thought that a lot of people were still trying to say he was born in Kenya.
Yeah, that's a bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of nonsense.
He's handed over paperwork stating he was born in Hawaii.
Yeah, it's exactly correct.
So, I mean, he's an American-born citizen who became president.
Yeah. The only reason that was ever debated, there's a bit of fake news there. The only reason that was ever brought up was so that they could try to drive a wedge in between one element of the electorate that didn't want Democrats, and it's more the same political nonsense that we're used to hearing now. But
well, my point is, it was proved that he is born on American soil.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is an American citizen, of course.
Well, it's funny, the tabloids and some of the shit you see online are still trying to...
I know, it's such an old...
That he's a Muslim. It's like, I believe he's Baptist.
He's Baptist, yeah.
And he has been his whole damn life. It's like,
yeah.
People need to just stop at some point.
But he does have the name Barack Hussein Obama, a point he himself raised as a point of amusement many, many times during the course of his presidency. So only in the United States could you have, Barack Hussein Obama elected as first black president.
What does the name really matter? At the end of the day, not much.
No, but there was a war with a guy named Hussein, a few years ago.
Yeah. It doesn't mean a whole lot.
No.
Hyperspace.
Except in some people's minds it might. Probably those conspiracy theorists who think that there was some sort of takeover of the White House and all kinds of other lunacy. I often wonder why we don't have quite the same difficulty with that here. Is it because we're not as powerful as the United States? Has that got something to do with it? Like, I don't know.
Canadians tend to have a more laid-back personality compared to a lot of Americans. I mean, most Canadians that I've interacted with in my lifetime they're pretty mellow and calm.
Pretty much.
They don't get fired up and jump to conclusions as easily.
No, just about my games, that's about it.
Only if your spaceship ain't functioning properly and you're about to die on the surface of some planet that is nowhere near home.
And I forgot that I shut my SRV unit off. Then, of course, I'll freak out like the most rabid Montanan who's independent, what the hell is the name of them? People who want to live out, there's a name for this group.
I guess I'm not following, but...
No, I'm trying to just remember a name, a word. It was from several years ago. Remember before 9/11 when there was like this concern about independent people who would try to exist without any kind of support from the state, and they would move out into the... I can't remember the word. God, this has been happening in increasingly distressing amount in my vocabulary, which is otherwise fairly rich, I hope.
Basically, you're talking about people who try to live off the grid.
Off grid, yes.
Yeah, they don't want to be
dependent on society for anything.
Yeah, they don't want to be a proper participant of society. They don't want to have to deal with the way that we live our lives normally now.
No, that's right.
Yeah, there's a name for it. I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the damn proper
Yeah.
term for it.
But it was basically it was a much bigger deal before 9/11 than after, because after 9/11 everything went all kind of sideways, and
These people want to live more of a subsistence lifestyle.
yeah, kind of like Hutterites or Mennonites. I think we were talking about that.
Not to the religious degree, but to the degree that they're living off of nature itself.
Yeah, with solar panels and whatnot, but there's ample technology. But it's just a something that
They don't want to. They don't want to have to pay. They don't really want to have to live off the modern power grid. They don't want to have to get their water and sewer from the local municipality.
no
They don't want to pay
government
basically they want to try and live a greener lifestyle, and one that they don't have to rely on all the corporate society things that society lives on now.
Yeah.
Not necessarily corporate, but it's not the right word. But
No, I can't think of the word.
I know what the name is, but I can't think of it either off the top of my head right now. Request to dock.
Request denied.
It'd be interesting to live a subsistence lifestyle for a while, but I don't think I'd want to do it for the rest of my life.
Well, by 2050, they're working right now on a energy returning, like an energy positive fusion torus. With this torus, which has been designed and they're currently implementing in Europe, if it works, and there's every indication it will, we will be able to produce energy through fusion here on Earth for the first time. And it's hot fusion, but once you have fusion, you literally have the power of the stars at your command. So from that point on, we shouldn't really have to worry too much about energy ever again.
Well, the problem is, I mean, you got, like, around here, we got a lot, I mean, within 100, 150 miles of where I live, there are many windmills.
Yes, I've seen them. Yes, I've seen them.
It is kind of nice. It's a renewable resource.
Yes, it is.
It takes a lot to keep these things maintained so that they're in proper running order. You got hydroelectric dams. Well, they require a lot of upkeep and everything else, but it's a renewable resource.
Yeah, but in Manitoba and along the Nelson,
Then we got
Nelson.
from here, we got a damn coal burning power plant. It's like,
Yeah, I know. You're talking about
get rid of the 1920s technology. I mean, personally, I'm all for the fact that green technology is great. I mean,
Sure.
I'm realistic. I understand that we can't just overnight jump into the 23rd century.
No, we're not going to do that, but especially not with hot fusion.
On utilizing new techniques and new sources.
Yeah, no, fusion I think is viable, but it's just like we talk about that coal plant. Did you know that there's a technology, a Canadian technology, much less, that can take your emissions, your hydrocarbon emissions out of the smokestack and inject it into the ground, back where it came from, basically.
Don't get me wrong. We've got a lot of ethanol plants around here and a lot of coal burning plants.
Yep.
I mean, they're smokestacks. I mean, it's just steam that's coming out of them.
Yeah, but
We have lots of them around this area.
there
a lot of corn.
and there's a lot of hydrocarbon. I mean, the U.S. is still second in the world overall, right behind China, in terms of CO2 pollutants, including hydrocarbons. So, if you could take all that emissions, which most of which is industrial, it's not even the residential stuff. Most of it is industrial capacity. You take all that crap and you stick it in the ground where it came from in the first place anyways, it's just been depleted of its energy-producing properties, then theoretically you could actually make the United States completely green, but and you could keep your coal as well. But
Quit burning coal, that'd be great, because honestly, there's nothing good that comes from burning proper coal.
Well, you should probably, they should probably start phasing it out. I don't know what the hell Trump was thinking when he pulled out of that international accord. Most of the United States didn't go with him, so de facto now you have about 60% of the United States in the treaty, and the rest of the country is whatever, not, I guess. I don't know.
Trump is trying to run politics as if it's a business.
Yeah.
We all know that's not going to work out very well. I mean, certain aspects will work better, or work, but some won't.
Well, his trade gamble...
It's got to be a blend of politics and business.
Yeah, his trade gamble might actually be the smartest thing he's done so far. We'll see. Like, I'm on the fence about that maneuver with the Chinese. We'll see if the Chinese, because the Chinese they can't devalue the American dollar, and if they actually expect to recover the debt that they own, right? So it doesn't do anyone.
I gotta go find a restroom.
Oh, okay.
I'll be back in a few minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. Crowley Hub, commodities, aluminium, aluminum. Holy crap. Well, we doubled our money. Now, here's the mother load. Basic medicines. Lots of supply. Oh, watch this. Yeah, it's going to be basic medicines for $325. We're selling them for $4,500. Oh, yeah.
At maximum capacity.
Here it is, folks. The mother load. Computer laying a course. It's TF1774. Course laden, hey bo.
I am back.
So, okay, get this. I'm buying the medicines that I'm going to sell for $4,500 in the other system. I'm buying them here at 325 credits a pop. Do you realize, like, it's just stupid how much money that's going to net?
Yep. But when you find deals like that, they don't last.
Oh, there's plenty of supply. The supply is over 300,000, and that will take many 500 credit unit loads to deplete.
Lumbaba, since I started this 3 days ago, has had a supply of about 3,000. I go there, I buy 528 of them, and I haul them off.
Yeah.
By the time I get back, their supply is replenished. But then again, Lumbaba also produces them.
Yeah, well, so does this system.
They're one of their exports.
Yeah, this is an agrarian society, so it will produce. Hang on, let's just find out what the designation is. It is a. Hang on a moment. It is a.
Leave dock.
It is something. Hang on. Oh, there's a water world here. I'm pretty sure that this is biological. Arrival point allegiance Crawley Hub. Crawley Hub is considered the following. Economy industrial. Exports. Mostly marine equipment, but they've obviously somehow got a supply in. I can actually trace back through the trade data. I can find out where they're getting their medicines from. But 325 credits, I mean, who gives a shit? It's obviously not their major production unit, but they can definitely... It's cheap enough that I don't have to go anywhere else unless they run out, and they're not going to run out anytime soon. So, Yahoo!
Galaxy map.
Basic medicines, yeah, 492 at galactic average, 323 price. In other words, it doesn't matter where the hell it's coming from. But since you asked, 2 jumps to STF 1774. Okay, what do we got here? Let's go down our list. I would like to see the trade data, please. Trade data.
Yeah, my yaw control is just all fucked up and pissing me off.
I want to see medicines. All. They're coming from the Ross 112 system, Fecta, Alios, Esgriza. They're coming from multiple sources. That's why they're aggregating here at a distribution point, and then they're migrating the exports up to STF 1774, which is 2 hops away, but still, that's what I read here. No. I want you to take this system, and I want you to plot. Exit, please. Computer, launch. Okay. Actually, I should look at doing some voiceovers that would allow me to use my usual computer-inducted commands. Just talk to my computer and get responses from the system.
Well, if you notice, what I've been doing is just 1-word or 2-word commands that really, as we're talking, really doesn't cause too much havoc.
No. Well, what I would do is I would preface every command with the term computer, as in I'm asking the computer to do something.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'll put it this way. I have dogs, so I've learned that simple 1- or 2-word commands generally work pretty good.
Yeah.
Because, well, I'm not going to say dogs are stupid, but they don't quite think like people do.
No.
They pick up on keywords in conversation.
Yep.
If you got 4 keywords in a sentence, they'll figure them out, and they'll go do it. But if you can keep it at 1- or 2-word commands, they comprehend what you want so much easier.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if it's like, okay, I've got 3 dogs. My lab has been trained the most. My poodles,
well, that's why Microsoft's speech synthesis solution for Windows 10 relates to the term Cortana, so that
you gotta say the word "hey" before her name,
right?
To get her attention. That works pretty well with dogs too.
Yeah.
I mean, when I guess it's not the greatest correlation between dogs and computers, but I mean it works.
Yep.
It gets the point across of what you're trying to do.
Oh, hang on. We got a heat warning. Ejecting heat sink.
Oh my fucking god. Screw it. I'm gonna shut that fucking function off.
Do 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 do.
Well, my yaw control is just, it automatically turns the ship to the left. I really don't need yaw control, so I'm gonna just fucking shut it off.
Yeah.
Yes, confirm. I'm shutting it off. I don't need it.
What
But I'm still.
what's the name of your solution for voice actuation?
Voice attack.
Okay, noted.
You could Google it and kind of look at it yourself.
Yep.
I think you play with it. I mean, I like to play with things. Just like when I played Skyrim, I like to play with all the damn mods. Some I like, some I don't. It's just, I guess I'm not a big computer guru, but I like the fact that I can play with them and do different shit for the fun of it.
Well, the other thing is, as a software developer, I could also use Microsoft's .NET SDK for the Windows Speech Recognition API. And write my own utility if I wanted.
Yeah.
But it would take too much time, too much effort.
I know enough people, but if I have issues with a computer, I can generally ask people questions without getting too annoying about it most time, hopefully.
I'm sure.
I know the guy at work, he's okay. I don't really want to call him my boss. Technically, he's not. He's more the department head, I would say.
Yeah.
He's not really the supervisor. He can't hire and fire or anything. But he's been there for like
ever
20-some years.
Yeah.
And he knows what he's doing. I'll give him credit. He's probably honestly, he's probably the first person I've ever worked for that is actually smarter than I am.
Isn't that wonderful when that happens? Because you actually learn from such people.
You learn from them, and you have a level of respect for them because you know what to expect out of them.
Well, that's why whenever someone asks me what's your management style during an interview, like I've been on interviews lately, I'll just say, well, I lead by example. That's my approach. And
I no longer have yaw, so this is gonna suck for fine control movements.
Are you using your freighter still?
Yes. I think there's something. I don't know. I'm gonna have to Google it, but right now I'm not gonna Google what the problem is because I've got let's see, half a bottle of bourbon in me.
Oh, you've been drinking.
Yeah, I'm a lot more talkative when I'm drinking too. You'll notice that. I haven't drank for like a month.
Well, I could have a beer. That's all I have here is well, of course, they'll probably get you all sloshed because you're drinking American beer. It's like watered down, but
I'm not a beer fan.
well, it's understandable.
Okay, I'm drinking Tennessee Fire Jack Daniels with 35% alcohol by volume.
If you ever find yourself in Winnipeg, go to a beer vendor and pick up a case of Fort Garry Dark.
If I ever,
it's a dark ale, but it's a personal favorite. Anyway,
I've had people tell me that a lot of the dark beers are better than the light beers, but I've never really gone to a. It's getting more common around here to find custom brewers.
Yeah.
And little bars that kind of have half a dozen different stuff that they brew.
Well, there's been a series. There's been an eagerness in recent years to deal with home brewers by deregulating the booze industry in Manitoba and keeping the local market, the local brewers alive. And like I said, Fort Garry Dark was a particular favorite of mine. And if I'm ever out there again, God willing, I will probably be heading for a beer vendor. And even though I'm not much of a beer drinker either, I'm more of a wine guy. But I like Zinfandels and Reds, Merlots.
Wines?
Yeah. I like to have them with dinner sometimes.
Okay. An uncle of mine, he makes his own wine now and then, and he's given us a few bottles. I don't know what it is. I'm not a fan of sour or bitterness, and that's what most wines have been that I've
Yeah,
ever tried.
Zinfandel is the opposite. Zinfandel is a sweet wine. So you'd probably be more taken with it than you would any. It's a little bit like a cooler, but I wouldn't go so far as to call Zinfandels like coolers. They're not bubbly and happy or anything. It's not a champagne.
I'm not even. I guess I like a lot of whiskeys and bourbons. Jack Daniels is probably my favorite thing to drink.
What about Irish cream? You like that? We just passed the Ides of March, so and St. Paddy's Day.
I think I've had it a long time ago.
Yeah.
I know. I can drink Crown Royal. That's a Canadian whiskey.
Yes, it is. Famous Canadian whiskey.
Not bad. It's not in my top 10. Okay, I won't even say that it probably isn't in my top 10, but it's not one of the top 3 things I'll drink.
No.
But it's up there pretty good.
But you like your bourbons. I actually don't think I've tried a tried a bourbon. I've tried rums. I've had 99 proof Jamaican rum when my girlfriend hauled back from her trip to the Caribbean, which she didn't bring me along.
What the one that's real common, kind of a brand name. What the hell is it?
Which is this?
That shit ain't too bad, huh?
Which one is this?
I can't right now. I can't think of the name of it.
There's let's see. In terms of rums, well, there's.
Okay, brand names here are probably different than brand names there too. So.
Well, we import a lot of our liquor. Well, it's either produced here or it's imported from somewhere else on Earth. But there's a pretty large American selection.
Yeah, okay, Captain Morgan.
No, there we go. Yeah, that one's.
Captain Morgan. I don't mind that stuff now and then.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Captain Morgan, I'll drink that.
You get yourself sloshed real easy, you know.
Maker's Mark.
Maker's Mark.
Brand of bourbons I like.
Uh-huh.
They're medium grade stuff I like better than their low grade stuff, but it's like $50 for a 1.75 liter bottle. So I mean it's twice as much as Jack Daniels, which I drink normally.
And so a bourbon is like originates in Louisiana, right?
Jack Daniels is Kentucky, I believe. It actually comes from a dry county. Figure that one out.
A dry county is allowed to produce but not consume.
Exactly. I mean,
oh my goodness.
Fucked up, but it's kind of amusing.
It is amusing.
There's another whiskey. They make a bourbon and they make a whiskey. I don't like their bourbon, but I do like their whiskey. But it's a rye whiskey. I can't think of the name of it, but that stuff's on the spendy side too. That's pretty good shit.
Yeah. Well, that's probably what steered me away from. Probably what steered me away from bourbons in the past is probably the price tag. You're probably dead on about that.
Bourbons are kind of usually they're aged a little bit differently, a little bit longer than whiskeys are.
Yeah, which means the cost is
more mellow.
Yeah.
And because Jack Daniels claims to be a whiskey, but it still gets processed like a bourbon does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it goes down slightly smoother than a lot of whiskeys do.
Okay, here comes the big sale. Tick, 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 tick. 2 million! Cha-ching! 2.2 million.
So you're pulling about the same that I'm pulling right now, then.
Yeah. I only had to travel halfway across the frickin' galaxy to do it.
You could have come hung out with me.
Yeah,
actually,
but the supply here.
Try someday.
The supply.
You know?
Well, I will. I'll have to come back down there, like I said, tomorrow. So I'll be in the neighborhood tomorrow. But it's going to be. I think here technically, I may be pulling a little bit more profit than you, but not an extravagantly larger amount. Maybe 200.
I think I'm getting about 2.25 million, but that's also a one-sided round trip. I'm only making money on the one jump.
Okay.
But hey, I'm making money. I'm doing pretty good. I got over 50 million in the bank. So, but what I want to, you remember what was it last week when we were Sitting at Volcabi, turning in missions.
Yep.
That one, and I guess you noticed it before I did, that you were getting vouchers or whatever for anything I turned in.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you're in a wing doing the same thing, between the same.
Yeah, you get a dividend. You get.
It would be more valuable.
You get a dividend. Like your trade. First of all, for any kind of trade you're doing. My trade rank is currently entrepreneur, and it's gaining much faster than my explorer rank at the moment. So although I'm at second, the only rank higher than trade on trade, the only rank higher is tycoon. After that, you're elite. So I've only got 2 ranks left, and right now I'm gaining a lot just by doing things the way I'm doing them now.
In trade rank, I am entrepreneur.
Yeah, so you and I are the same rank.
So I think our next rank would put us at, is there 1 or 2 more ranks to get to?
There's Tycoon next, and then there's Elite.
Okay, and then Pathfinder, I think I'm 3 jumps away, because I'm Pathfinder for Explorer.
I'm Pioneer and Explorer, so I'll be Elite there before you.
Rank, I'm Novice at 92%.
No, I'm at...
I run away from all conflicts and battles.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm at 4% expert combat rank.
Honestly, what I should...
Holy shit, I hit 30 million.
I should start running around with you and do the combat shit, but right now I'm just trying to build up my ships.
Yeah, well, I want to finish off this freighter.
My first objective is always whatever equipment I have, try to raise it up to the maximum level that I can get it to.
Yeah.
And if it gets to the point in a game like Defiance has,
yeah.
Basically Defiance right now, they're trying to come out with a newer version of the game. They're calling Defiance 2050, and it's an upgrade to what is there now. I've lost interest because they went and started jacking around all the drop rates for rares and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It just pissed me off because it ruined the gameplay that I enjoy. I enjoy trying to run around, and most people don't like grinding.
Yeah.
I do, because you can sit and grind for hours on end and bullshit with people and have fun socializing. I realize I might be very weird, but that's something I enjoy doing.
No, I wouldn't say weird.
First game I ever played was EverQuest Online Adventures, and shit, that's all I ever did is sat in a group for hours on end,
yapping
with people while we're killing things over and over and over.
Yeah. No, I don't find it weird. I just find that I'm a different kind of personality. I have to focus on what I'm doing to get anything meaningful work done. And I can't grind as a result. So it's just like, okay, yes, I'm doing this 2 million thing because there's a certain limit as to how far I have to go with it. But, you know, if there's a better system in the galaxy to make money, definitely interested, obviously.
How do you figure I'm such a noob playing this game and I have a lot of fucking money with...
Oh, it's just trying out the different...
$1 million worth or credits worth of inventory.
It's just the different roles that you've cycled through were a different path than I took. I wanted to explore the galaxy, so I went out far away from the bubble faster.
I've done plenty of exploring things, but I got to the point that I'm still trying to upgrade my damn...
Yeah, but you're still 2 ranks back, and I bet you...
I can upgrade my ships.
You're still 2 ranks before me on Explorer, and that's because you haven't gone as far. You get points in Explorer, in your Explorer rank, for how far you are from the bubble. Like the guy, like Nate Doggs yesterday, or no, today. No, yesterday I was talking to him. He told me he's made 3 trips out to Colonia. So, it's with 3 trips under his belt to Colonia, that's just painful. Like, just thinking of that for a minute, how much jumping you would have to do.
That's like 20 to 25,000 light years, isn't it?
Yeah. So he's gone, like, you know, thousands and thousands of light years further into the galaxy than I ever have. The maximum I've gone is 5,200. I think.
Okay. Here's something for amusing for you to think about. If I go look in my statistics, current assets, 393 million credits. 350 million credits tied up into my ships, and 344 million is tied up into the outfitting of them. I've only spent 1.8 million on repairs, 125,000 on fuel, 933,000 on munitions. Insurance claims 32. Total claims cost 48 million.
Yeah, you're a more efficient player than me. Here's my stats for comparison. Let's see here. Statistics. Ships balance. Current assets, 410 million credits. Credits spent on ships, 142,296,248 credits. Credits spent on outfitting, 402 million credits. On repairs, 5.1 million on repairs. Fuel, 816,000. Credits on munitions, 1.1 million on ordnance for combat. Total claim costs, definitely been killed more than you, 161 million credits.
Okay, so if we look at the comparison...
That's almost one, just for the record, that's almost 1 in 4 of my ships that I've ever flown have been wiped out.
So if we kind of compare them, assets and the amount spent on ships is fairly close. I've spent a little bit more on outfitting. I've probably spent less on repairs, less on fuel,
Oh yeah.
less on munitions.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because I tend to run around long distance with fuel scoops, so I effectively get free fuel.
Yeah.
And then since I don't do the combat side, I have less in repairs, less in munitions, and less in insurance claims.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hesitant to get into doing more of the combat stuff in this because my luck with PvP in any game has always been I get my ass handed to me.
Well, there's always first of all,
really learn how to go around and get away from it.
you know how the rules of combat work in life, in everyday life, right? Like, if someone can beat you up, you can beat someone else up, and so on. Well, there's translation.
I know that very well.
Translation, there's always someone tougher than you, and you're going to get your ass kicked sooner or later if you're a bruiser.
Let's put it this way: that's kind of part of the part of the problem with why I'm considered a felon. I've learned from my younger days that behavior is not necessarily good in the long run.
No, not generally.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I mean, whether you learn by doing, trial and error, or whether or not you clue in and play scaredy cat or coward and run away in the most amusing way possible to get people to laugh with you rather than at you.
I honestly don't care if people laugh at me because I laugh at myself a lot.
Yeah. Probably a healthy self-image. So, let's see, what am I doing? Oh yeah, delivering aluminum. So, we have... Yeah, but there's always someone tougher in this game. No matter how much money you invest, no matter how long you play, you're not going to rival the top. The odds are very much against you rivaling the top 10% of the elite players. Like Nate Doggs.
I look at it this way. I consider myself a casual gamer, even though there's times I spend 6 to 8 hours at a time playing this game.
Yeah.
Average probably 3 hours a night. But I guess I'm not out there to try and be the best player in the game. Games for me are to have fun and to screw around while I have time to kill.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a different experience.
I don't play games. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Fishing season will hopefully open in the next couple of weeks. I want to go fishing again. I want fresh fish.
Then you have to debone them. Oh my God.
I don't... Shit, deboning fish is easier than you think.
My grandfather was really good at it.
The old school ways of cleaning fish actually work really well. Like, okay, do you know what a northern pike is?
Yep.
They are the easiest fish in the world to clean, if you know how to do it right. But do you know who you look to find that information, how to clean them right?
Now that my grandfather's passed on, nope.
You look at the way the Native Americans did it back in the day, it still fucking works.
Oh, really?
I mean, as far as I know, the way that I learned to do it is the way that it was done hundreds of years ago.
Quite probably.
And I can clean them and have very few bones in them. Very few, if any, bones.
Do you have northern pike in South Dakota?
Say what now?
You have pikes in South Dakota in your lakes there?
Northern pike are actually common all the way through North America and all the way through Europe and some parts of Asia.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
As far as North America, they are native to every body of water in North America.
I just thought they were locked inside the Hudson Bay watershed, which South Dakota is just south of. No, okay.
Every body of water, every little stupid river we have around here has got northern in them. They actually do better in rivers than they do in lakes. They do damn well in lakes.
Yeah, well, Lake Winnipeg is got its share of fishermen on it already. I mean, there was a whole fishery that ran off the prairie lakes in Manitoba for many, many years.
Okay. If we go, walleye is another fish that is very, very common around here.
Yep.
It's highly regulated just because of out-of-state fishermen coming in and fishing. We can go to the local grocery store and we can buy walleye for somewhere between $18 and $22 a pound.
Okay.
No fucking way am I going to go buy walleye when I could go fishing and have fun catching the damn things.
Yeah.
And I could catch 3 of them, which comes out to about 4 or 5 pounds in the matter of 3 hours. Why would I go buy the damn thing? And most of these walleye that we get in the store come out of Canada.
Yeah, of course.
Go to the store. I mean, the local store here is really good, and I like it. They tell us where
it was caught.
Fish displays.
Yeah.
Seafood displays. It tells you where they come from. We get a lot of catfish, walleye out of Canada.
There's the problem is with taking fish out of Lake Winnipeg specifically. The Americans do a really good job, it turns out, in North Dakota especially, of cleaning up all the runoff that comes from the farmland into the river, into the Red River, which floods, of course, on a regular basis. But that's just because we all live on a floodplain. But that whole valley is basic. That whole valley is basically looked after on the American side. And, you think of Canada being a particularly green country. Well, no, historically...
You're mentioning the Red River?
Yeah, in the Red River Valley.
The valley runs through North Dakota and Minnesota. It kind of comes into South Dakota somewhat in the very northeast part.
Yep.
But the Red River Valley is probably the most fertile crop-growing area around here. And then, this was quite a while ago. You were talking about all the circular things you're seeing on Google Maps.
Yeah.
That turned out to be the irrigation.
The irrigation systems. Yeah.
Red River Valley.
Yeah, of course. That's right. But I mean, it just wasn't particularly cleaned up by the Canadian farmers who would fertilize their land, of course, every year, just like everyone else. But the trouble was they weren't putting proper controls, and the water that was flowing into Winnipeg City proper, we sort of looked at it. It's very sediment heavy, very silty, very dark, and then of course you got the Assiniboine River crisscrossing inside Canada. The Assiniboine River, which is another major river system, comes to the forks in Winnipeg. And that whole valley is just like, one big sedimentary pit for the farmland. And I don't know if they did much about cleaning it up after I left, after 2000. But up to 2000, it wasn't really being all that well looked after. I hope they fixed it, but I don't know. It just, the water was a lot.
Modern agriculture has gotten to the point that the farmers, especially around here, you can go to a lot of the post or the 2-year colleges or the 2-year VOTEX or whatever.
Right.
Will actually teach agricultural-based courses.
Yes.
Farming has become a science, especially around here.
Yeah.
More so than an art form.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat if you look at it.
But that's for the junior people who want to start off by, either inheriting land, investing in the family farm or whatever, and then having. I also don't even know what the state of the family farm is. I know for a number of years it was under crisis watch in Manitoba. You had to worry about, whether or not the wheat board was setting the prices correctly, and whether or not you could turn a profit at the end of the year. And of course, every farm lives year to year this way, and you have to be able to turn a profit. Well, if they were that skint on money, they wouldn't be able to afford to clean up properly, and the state would have to, no doubt, become involved in order to secure the river for proper, because what flows inside the river, of course, is getting into your fish and could probably damage your fish. You don't want hormones and
it damages the local ecology.
Yeah.
We deal with it around here as well.
You don't want to have that all corrupted.
A lot of times, I guess I haven't looked at the numbers and stuff.
Yeah, the latest data.
A lot of times, the Game Fish and Parks is trying to encourage farmers to not use pesticides.
Yeah.
And a lot of the chemicals, if they're within about a mile or so of a water drainage system,
yeah,
which a mile is like about 1.6 kilometers. I guess that's the conversion rate.
Well,
if they're within 1,600 meters of a water system, they encourage you not to use pesticides and chemicals.
But a lot of those people are also using drainage ditches. I used to swim in these drainage ditches that farmers would use to wash off their topsoil, and the result was sort of, at the time it was probably not the safest activity to be swimming around inside of a freaking drainage ditch, but it probably got it.
If you're down in like Florida or some of the southern states in the U.S.,
yeah,
you won't go swimming in them because of fucking alligators.
Yeah, we don't have those to worry about yet.
You'll never have them. They can't survive the winters here, let alone up in Canada.
Well, unless, of course, the global warming takes on, some sort of new apocalyptic sort of context, and we experience warmer winters in the center of the continent.
Our winters of the last probably 5 to 8 years have been warmer than normal, where we have.
Yeah, but a degree or two.
Snowfall. Our snow melts before it can stick around.
What they're predicting is 1 to 2 degrees Celsius for the next 100 years, right? That's the goal, right? That was part of the thing that Trump withdrew from. But 1 to 2 degrees over the next century seems like manageable, and most countries in the world, excluding China and the United States, seem to be on board with that. Unfortunately, most of the world's pollution comes from those two countries. So you really do need the United States to sign back onto the treaty in order to bring global temperatures down. That or China has to, and I don't think China is very likely to.
China don't give a shit at the moment because they're going through their.
No, but they will when their people start coughing up a lung and start having weird London. Remember how there was not sure how aware of World War II history you are, but London, during the Blitzkrieg, the Germans bombed the hell out of London. And at one point, the smog from the destruction, just the non-radioactive fallout from conventional weapons was enough to actually cause a recurrence of a pre-existing condition in London where people would start coughing up and dying in the middle of the street just because of the street level pollution was too high. If something like that hits Beijing, which is also built into a big mountain valley, you know, or any of these other places where, you know, Shanghai and whatnot, that have very dense populations, and if they start having serious problems, I honestly don't know if the central government can hold back the stem of likely protests that would result. The problem with adopting a partial capitalist economy is that capitalism tends to spread. Sooner or later, you don't want like 1 in every 4 human beings to suddenly turn on your government in one place at one time and rise up in revolution. That would be bad.
Well, as soon as our society, and this isn't just necessarily here in America, but everywhere, we decide as a collective whole to be a little more green, it'll benefit us and
oh, I think so.
So much better.
In fact, I don't know if we could get...
When we learn to use nature to our benefit properly, we'll all come out ahead.
This is one of the questions I have, is what would happen if Trump went to China. If Trump went to China and could get, you know, put on the table, look, we'll agree to your terms under the pre-existing conditions on the condition that you agree to attack pollution with UN inspections of commercial facilities on a regular basis. It's an idea that I'm just kind of...
It's not so much that they conform to our ideas, but we need to realize that they have their own traditions and everything.
They have their own... There's a lot of history there in terms of Western powers coming into China and dictating. And it pisses them off, like, to be told what to do.
We've had our, about 100 years ago, we had our I can't think of the word of it, but basically where we advanced in our ability production and everything. We learned the hard way that if we ignore nature, it's not good for us.
No.
For the most part, China has been more nature-orientated than the United States has.
Mm-hmm.
If we go over there with the attitude, okay, traditionally you have done better than we have in the aspect that you take care of nature better than we do. We've learned ourselves that it doesn't work this way. We ask that you look at how we've done it, learn from our mistakes, and try to adapt.
Yeah.
And it's all in how you say it and the mentality or the.
Oh, of course.
Use with it.
I don't profess to be an expert with diplomacy, but I mean the end goal being that if they would agree to mutual not to have Western inspectors, because they aren't Western. The UN inspectors are worldwide. So you could have just as likely someone from Sri Lanka or some other third country, right, that would come along and do the inspection as readily as any European country or Canada, for that matter. But it wouldn't be a question of dictating. It would be a question of agreement. Yes, absolutely.
The United States needs to learn one thing, and I realize I'm an American.
Yeah.
That, yes, we've done a lot of dumb shit and learned the hard way, but we can't just go into these other cultures and say, well, it didn't work for us, so it won't work for you, so fucking do it the way we say.
No.
We need to say, okay, learn from our mistakes. We learned that this didn't work. So we're asking you to look at what we did, look at our failures, and learn from them. See if you can do better than we did. Basically, we need to be humble more than anything, and admit that we fucked up.
Yeah.
In order for other countries to look at us.
It's very tough to. This is an ongoing question with my own religious background, but nationalism is something that the Mennonite faith had taken as being sort of a sore spot. Mennonites tend not to be nationalistic, although the Canadian government, when they moved here, welcomed them as such. did so with the expectation that they were not going to be required to swear allegiance to a flag or any of that other stuff. And the Canadian government said, yes, of course, this is understood, and sections of Manitoba were colonized by different faiths of branches of the Mennonite faith. So it made me think when I was being educated by Mennonites that it would be. I'm not sure where nationalism has a place, but national pride is a common theme in nationalism. Be proud of your country, be proud of where you're from. But pride in and of itself is a vice. Catholicism teaches against it, right? So
most religions actually kind of
shy away from it, yeah. Tend to want to. So I don't know. Like, I don't ever really want to be confronted with a group of Americans who I would, in all earnestly, expect. No, become nationally humble. Like we Canadians are, or anything like that. I certainly wouldn't dictate in terms like that. I don't know. I don't think Canadians have any short of patriotism. We just don't talk about it as much. It's just not said. It's expected.
Canadians are kind of expected to be patriotic.
Yeah.
More so, they don't have to be vocal about it like other cultures so much.
Yeah, like we don't hear "Oh Canada" necessarily, except at the hockey game, but. That's about. You don't really have to hear it every. And to be perfectly blunt with you, my favorite national anthem in the whole world, after listening to many of them on the internet, was the Star Spangled Banner. It's a very rousing anthem, very well written. It's passionate, has all the aspects.
The Star Spangled Banner was actually written with the purpose of being able to be adapted to any country to any country, not necessarily for the United States, but it was written so that it could be adapted to any country in the world.
Yeah, well,
that's kind of why it has that
rousing effect. But I mean, it's just the way the lyrics go. I just love everything about it. I think it's a wonderful anthem, and I kind of, when I'm expected to, of course, if you ask me on Canada Day, I'll say, "Oh, Canada's my favorite anthem." But on any other day of the year, it's probably not going to be "Oh, Canada." It'll probably be Star Spangled Banner.
Honest, I'm probably not the most patriotic person, but I will admit that, like at ball games and such, when they play the national.
Well, sure.
Star Spangled Banner, it does affect me.
I think that the United States has done a remarkable job inside the 20th century, and like any large, I hesitate to use the word empire, but we'll call it for what it basically has turned into. Not because it wanted to, but because, like a lot of other empires that preceded it, it did so because that's where its national interests lie. If you look at the Romans weren't setting out at the very beginning of the Roman Republic to set up a huge, trans-European empire. That wasn't in anyone's imagination. It just sort of happened. There was one conflict with one city-state that couldn't be peacefully resolved, and it led to another, and then another, and before you know it, they're controlling 5 or 6 city-states from the Roman Curia, and, then along comes Caesar.
If you look at the United States, we try not to have an imperial mentality for one reason. At one point, we were part of the British Empire.
The British Empire, yeah.
The United States, we don't want to be an empire.
But there's a lot of Roman. There's a lot of.
We have everyone or every country or nation or island or whatever, however you want to call it, that we have influence over. We like to think that we give them the option of participation. They have rights to choose whether they be.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath.
Choose whether they're part of us or not.
I would think that, you know, one of the exceptions to that might just be Puerto Rico. It hasn't been brought up enough, I don't think, during the current news cycle that Puerto Rico is still.
Okay, a guy I used to work with he is Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Long story short, he explained it to me one day, and he made a lot of sense. The average Puerto Rican wants to be part of the United States, but they don't want to be the 51st state because Puerto Rico really can't compete with the continental United States.
Well, but neither can Rhode Island. I mean, there's no size requirement. You get 2 senators and you get some congressmen, and that's all there is to it.
Puerto Rico is small.
Yes, it is.
They have a low population. They got a slightly different mentality than the rest of the United States does.
So does Delaware, so does Vermont. I mean, these are states too.
Puerto Ricans, Puerto Ricans surprisingly, are, from what I understand, I could be wrong, but from what I understand, they're kind of happy being part of the United States, but not actually being a state. They're given one of the few rare freedoms that most of the rest of the states don't have. They can pick and choose what they support.
That might have been true in the 20th century, but now with global warming having an effect on Caribbean environments the way it is, I think they probably want to go more the way of Hawaii. But either way, why not hold a referendum and put it to a final test? That's all I'm saying. And I think the Puerto Ricans should be given that opportunity, for whatever it's worth.
Puerto Ricans have been given that. Honestly, if I understand it right, they've been given the option to become a state. Many times they've declined.
Their current governor.
Their way of life does not exactly mesh with ours.
But their current governor does want to make Puerto Rico a state. So, presumably.
Doesn't speak for the whole population.
No, but she was elected by a majority of the people in Puerto Rico, so any leader of any state or territory, yep,
their job is to speak on behalf of the people,
right,
not their own personal opinion.
Right. Presumably this is what she thinks she's doing.
Yeah.
I take her at her word. But
and she might want to become part of the United States, but just because their people don't want, they might be happy at the way it is now.
Maybe.
It'll never happen until the majority of them actually ask
for a referendum
to become part of the United States.
Yeah. Well, no, that's true. They'll need a referendum. That much is a given. The same is true, by the way. We have a similar situation in Canada. It's a slightly different scenario, but different countries. The Yukon Territory is approaching population numbers it's expected to approach population numbers that could make it a lot competitive as a province. Provincing the Yukon Territory is, some people have argued against it based on population, but Prince Edward Island in Canada is a full vested province, one of the 4 founding provinces of Confederation. And it doesn't have a gigantic number of people. So,
well, I'd imagine they're in the northern part of Canada?
Yeah, it's north of British Columbia, right between Alaska and British Columbia.
So they're up there in the northern part.
Yeah, but it does get... It gets somewhat warmer there than you would think, because they are in the Mackenzie River Valley, I think. Is that right? Maybe not. The Dawson, sorry.
I had a classmate, a high school classmate, that actually did some, after she graduated college, she did some work in Canada. She was in Canada for a while.
Yep.
And it was kind of funny to find out that not Canada, Alaska.
Yeah.
In Alaska, there's a lot of times where it's nicer weather in Canada or in Alaska than it was in
Vancouver. Or in South Dakota, yes. Yeah, well, it was the same thing. It's the same thing with Yukon Territory. They have sometimes nicer weather than we do here in Ottawa. We're south of the 49th.
Northern Canada and Alaska, there are times when, yes, they might have 20 hours
Of sunlight, yeah. Yeah.
But there's times where their weather's nicer than it is
Yep.
in the northern part of the continental U.S. in southern Canada.
I still think that
It's kind of funny to think about that.
I'm still kind of miffed that the Americans won the bidding war with Russia over the Alaskan territory when the Russians put it up for sale, thinking it wasn't in their interest to keep the territory. So they decided to sell it. It was too far removed from Moscow. It was across the Bering Strait. There were a number of logistical problems.
26 miles.
So Canada made a bid, but it was done through the British High Commission, right? And the British Embassy in Moscow. And the Americans won because they put up a higher price, but I remember reading somewhere that the Canadian government at the time, the colonial government, was extremely livid that they were not consulted by Her Majesty's government, Queen Victoria, over the purchase, because the Alaskan transaction happened in 1848, Canada's Confederation happened in 1867. And that's when we broke away from England for the first time.
Yeah. I'm going to go find a restroom. I'll be back in a couple minutes.
Okay. Yes, 331.
Ship released. You're clear to depart.
Landing gear retracted. Frameshift drive charging.
I'm pretty sure you love
Temperature critical.
to walk wherever the hell you want. Think about it. Anytime you ask for permission to go for a walk, what do I say?
Taking heat
Why
damage.
do I want you to see him?
Did you never go and exercise yourself? Yeah, insane.
Heat sink deployed.
Yeah.
I'm more tolerant to go and walk wherever the hell you want across town.
Frameshift drive charging.
Why go explore? He's the one taking. Average person won't fuck with somebody with a dog. That dog thinks what?
Wait.
Take a dog for a walk. Basically take him for a walk wherever you want. He's going to be happy just to go for a walk. I enjoy going on a walk and don't tell me you don't. Walking on.
It's called sarcasm.
Yeah, walk straight. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's true. But I don't want to go outside. Oh my god!
Authorization for access to the docking bay. Request approved. You are cleared on that 2-4.
Flight assist off. Flight assist on.
I keep wondering what kind of fishing you'd have in a world that's completely devoid of any kind of surface other than liquid.
You'd have to have some really good boats. Be like that movie Water World.
Yeah, it's a water world. But the water worlds do exist. They've discovered likely candidates for several of them around nearby stars. So they're definitely out there. The question is, what kind of life would you find in a planet where there's only ocean and no land? Ah, yes.
My opinion of this voice attack software, voice whatever command.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm tempted to spend the 20 euros on it. Just because I can say a simple 1 or 2 word command and it'll do things that I want it to do.
Does it do it in any language, or does it just do it in English?
As far as I can see, it only does it in English, but I haven't looked. I don't speak any other language, so I don't really have a reason to look to see if it does Spanish, or French, or Italian, or whatever.
I see.
Contact confirmation.
Well,
System shut down.
the two nearest language hegemonies.
I'm doing with this sample software.
Yep.
I think it might be worth it.
I'm
I
sure.
don't need the AI personality included in it. There's another 17 euros per AI program.
It's probably for a kiosk or something. Not really a home workstation.
I think it's more for personal amusement, more for people who role play. It'll looking for that immersity, which
You are.
if they want the immersive environment, hey, go for it if that's your thing. I realize that I look at it this way, it's a game for me to kill my time with.
Yes. 492.
How many of our conversations over the last month have revolved around being immersive?
Well, several of them. I wouldn't say none.
Maybe 50% of them.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Most of our conversations don't have nothing to do with the game, really.
No, I'm talking about my latest beef with Trump or something along these lines,
Yeah.
but it's not really.
It's a popular subject with you.
Well, it doesn't really bother me, except that, like like I said, there's the question of empire that still has to be resolved.
Galaxy map.
I'm not, by the way, necessarily a huge fan of letting a new country take over the mantle of imperium from the United States, because the United States has shown itself to be pretty responsible in general with power, and the only
The United States basically looks at it this way: we rebelled against the British Empire.
Yep.
So we don't want to become the British Empire in the long run.
No, the population.
Going out in our other territories,
No, yeah.
pretty much leave them be. We just protect them when they need protection. Otherwise, they do whatever the hell they want.
But with the Gulf Wars, it was definitely American interests, except for the first. Well, okay, the first one was like mutual interest for the whole world, and all the member states. Canada joined that one. The second one was mostly American interest, so probably if anyone was going to attack Iraq, it might have made the most sense, I guess, for the United States to do it, although it wasn't necessarily the brightest move.
Most of what I've learned about like the UN in general, the United States is the biggest participant as far as military action. The UN calls for military action. The United States is almost obligated to provide a majority of that.
Yeah. Well, they also get to
participation.
right, and they also get to run the command.
Yep.
So that's the trade-off there, which is fine because
whether we like it or not, we're the most militarized of the UN.
yeah.
We have the economy and the background to basically be able to do it.
Yeah,
England, France, Australia, and Israel are our 5 biggest allies.
Yeah, we like to think of ourselves as America's closest ally, although the British are frequently propelled into that role.
The British and the Canadians kind of have equal status.
Do they? Okay.
When it comes to the French and the Israelis.
Yeah. Well, Canada, the reason there's
right next door to us.
There's a practical aspect to this, though, where Canada is concerned. Britain is not part of NORAD, like Continental Defense for the United States. I think there might have been some people in Ottawa who felt that we should have been included in the F-22 Raptor program. Although maybe it's a blessing in disguise now that we're looking at the Mustang II design and the the F-45 contract that's coming up in the next few years.
The F-22, I think, was more or less, I guess, from the limited reading I've done of it, was more or less an American kind of, we're looking at options.
Yeah, but you need to...
F-22 was more experimental than anything. Let's look and see what our options are, and that happened to become...
Yeah, but
reality out of those options
Do you remember, of course, from your World War II history that the P-51 Mustang was the mainstay fighter for American carriers and land-based aircraft?
The P-51 holds a lot of...
legacy. Huge legacy.
Yeah, it's very popular.
Very popular. It's because it's a nice... I've actually flown it in simulator. It's a very nice plane to fly. It's easy. You know, very straightforward.
I've played a few games with it too. The Mustang and the Corsair.
Yeah.
Both were two of the most
Nice.
well-rounded aircraft from that era.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows through video games and flight simulators.
Yeah. So the
I've actually kind of played with.
The F-45, with the Mustang II, as it's being called. I'm hopeful that Canada will be a participant in that contract, or at least in allowed to purchase some of them. The specifications are such that it looks like it'll be the next fighter Canada could use for the next 50 years after. Like, it really is that solid.
As far as all those experimental aircraft I've gotten at this point in time, I don't pay much attention to them. So, like, as far as you say the F-45, I don't even know what the hell it is.
It's basically an F-22 with a lot less in terms of maintenance requirement. They need and a much shorter turnaround time. Those are the two main requirements that are being put on the F-45.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I've gotten to the point that I don't pay much attention to it anymore. I guess as far as like my job, I look at this point in time. Like,
well, you should. You're paying for it, so.
My job, we make sensors and safety equipment and lighting and basically things that go into automation systems.
Okay.
So, I mean, that I have a little more interest in.
Yeah.
But as far as like the military complex, I don't actually have any direct input into it. I don't make anything that gets
I don't either.
as far as I know.
It's just interesting because we end up talking space frames. Like Nate Doggs and I, we just love talking about ship designs and ship options and engineering. Like, he was going off. If you watch the videos, you'll get the whole gamut. But
to easily explain the difference between you and me, you like to think more in the theoretical realm. I think more in the realistic realm.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true.
Difference in our
approach,
our career professions.
Yeah.
You're looking more to the future. I'm looking more to the right here and now.
Yeah.
I make physical things right now. I don't deal with software.
I do worry about the future a great deal, don't I?
Huh?
I haven't realized it, but I actually do think about the future a great deal. I want it to keep getting better and better and better.
That's where your career kind of drives you to.
Yeah.
My job is to make things. An engineer gives me a picture. I make a part that looks like the picture, whether that picture's 20 years old or not, or current. That's my job.
Yeah.
My job is here and throughout the past, making parts.
Oh, you know.
Is to look at now and into the future.
Yeah, because I have to constantly anticipate what's gonna come down the pipe next, because you never know what someone's gonna throw on top of you.
That's just it. You have to look to the future more than I do. I look into what's here and now and kind of what's in the recent past.
Yep.
Because that's what I'm required to do for my job. So,
but this is a science fiction realm we're playing in here, right? So, I mean, we're talking about 1,000 years in the future. I guess you can still be somewhat practical, noting that obviously no one has any real idea what life will be like 1,000 years from now.
Well, if you look at it that way, I'd play this game because, I think it'd be kind of fun to think of what could be.
Yeah.
And without having to be aggressive in it. Kind of, whatever.
Okay.
I prefer to be like, whatever. I guess if you don't like it, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll do my own thing, you do whatever the hell you want.
Oh, what happened to my... Oh, no. We might have lost our nice little agricultural outbreak. Hang on.
I think I said a while ago it could last up to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Or 3 days or 3 weeks, depending on whatever variable.
Well, I don't know what kind of map I got going on here. There's a... Hang on.
I think I'm tipsy enough right now. I'm starting to slow down. I'm not multitasking so well. I've been looking at Limbava for about 20 minutes now. I haven't jumped out of system.
See, it's not all fun and games, is it?
Hey.
Yeah, none. Okay.
Right now I have
Trade.
3/4 of a bottle of bourbon in me. I don't think I care.
No.
I'm just having fun socializing.
Visited star class state, economy. And what happened to trade? How come trade's off the menu? All of a sudden now trade just disappears off the map menu.
Usually the only time that happens is if they're in a lockdown.
Oh, I don't know. That's really weird.
I
Oh
gotta
well.
figure out how to maneuver my ship without yaw control.
Well,
Yaw control off for now.
how about turning the stick right or left?
That's what I'm doing. I've gone through more effort to circulate around, but my yaw, for some reason, it's sticking, and it'll just keep turning to one way or the direction, one way or the other.
Oh.
Center up on it. I'm going like.
I didn't even bother setting up yaw for exactly that. Well, no, I did. My port and starboard thrusters are both configured on my control pad, on my control surface.
It's kind of already there. It's base setup.
Yeah.
I don't know. I tore apart my controller, my joystick controller. I tore it apart today and cleaned it up, and I thought I had it cleaned up enough where if there's something mechanical sticking, it caused my issues. But I don't know, so I'm going to have to research that better at a later point.
Yeah. Oh, I'm flying over a blue class star, very close to the surface.
When you disconnect one functionality of a controller, you realize how much you used it. The yaw control I use a lot without realizing I actually use it.
Yeah. So you need to have it.
Yeah, to try and point myself center up on my target.
Well, but the game is designed to be roll-based, right? So I mean, you're gonna spin and roll in order to target, no matter what. There's just no way around it, I don't think.
But it's like with any aircraft, you've got 6 degrees of movement.
Yeah.
Well, I just shut off 2 degrees of that movement, so now I got to compensate, and it makes it that much harder.
As I said, I found thrusters useful, but anyway. I took over direct control of port and starboard thruster. That made just the most sense in my head. I don't know why. Okay. Engage jump drive.
When I plugged this HOTA stuff in here, I guess I looked at the game, figured out what I kind of needed in order to play Elite Dangerous, and I kind of figured what would make it most fun when I got my income tax return. I just bought the HOTA setup stuff before I bought the game. So I had the hardware before I had the software.
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of seeing when my hardware is acting up, giving me issues, that yeah.
Okay. And here we go.
I'm sure I'm going to have to tear this thing back apart and actually clean it better or something, look at it, but yeah.
Well, maybe there's some fluid or something you could put into the control mechanism.
Yeah, I don't know, because it almost sticks so that it wants to keep turning to the left. I haven't figured out why it wants to turn to the left when it's basically neutral, and I've got the dead zone set in the settings so high that it shouldn't do it at all. Because now as far as like I'm pitching my roll, I went and I set the dead zones up there high enough to get rid of the backlash in there. But I've still got backlash in my yaw control, and I have not figured out how to override that. I've been playing with it throughout the day now after I tore it apart and cleaned it. I mean, I had a lot of sticky, dusty gunk built up in there, and I cleaned it out with alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's still acting up, so I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to Google it. Forums are great because you can Google it, find forums, and if you have the patience to read through them, you might find a little bit of useful information. You just got to be patient enough to look for it.
17 seconds. Do you find yourself scanning a lot of ships that come your way?
If I'm in my Asp Explorer, yes. My T10 is not set up for scanning anything.
Yeah.
If I'm in my Asp Explorer, I look at it. That ship is my ship for exploring and for scanning. So that's the one I'll take to different systems just to scan and explore and whatever.
Someone's got a cold there. Holy crap.
If I get interdicted in that ship, I just boost my ass out of there and nobody can do anything.
Yeah.
I boosted out of there before they have the option to shoot at me.
I just noticed someone was coughing.
Scaredy cat chicken shit ship. That's literally what it is. I've got more invested in that ship than any of my others. My Eagle, I invested heavily in that one just for the sheer fun of it.
Yeah.
That ship's just fun to fuck around with.
Well, actually, you should make that your basic ship instead of having a Sidewinder. It's system LTT-13, whatever the hell it is.
I hated the Sidewinder. I bought an Eagle. I liked the Eagle. There's a lot as far as like the different paint jobs and body kits you can put on. There's a lot you can do with it.
Yeah.
But I like the Imperial Eagle that I've got so much better because it's got the potential. If I want to run away from a fight, all I hit is hit the boost button and I'm gone. And I've yet to find any NPCs that can keep up with that ship.
The only people you ever have to worry about in that ship would be people like us who are flying. That's right, other commanders who are flying fighters. Those are the only ships that could really catch you, or any other ship. Like
I can go in, I can poke the bear. If the bear fights back, I can run away like a little shit.
Yeah.
That's basically that's what the Eagle is for. Is for me to do scan missions. My Asp Explorer to scan missions, then to run around and explore the universe. My Python is so that I can run freight between different stations. And then my T10 has become a mining / big station transport. So each ship, the 4 ships I have, each have a very defined role that I use it for.
Yeah.
Request to dock.
Okay. Computer auto dock sequence engage.
You know, what you just said there. All I have to say is a much shorter sentence, and it does it all by itself.
Yeah, I heard you.
Request. I'm going to ask you a big favor. Bear in mind I'm drunk and stupid right now.
What?
I'm sure by now you figured out I'm a lot more talkative when I'm drunk than when I'm sober.
Yep. If I couldn't, you've said so before.
Probably. But it's all fun and games. It's all fun until something gets hurt or something like that. I don't know.
Something like that. Hang on a second.
If I get mad at you by tomorrow, I'll forget I was mad at you and we'll be friends again.
Oh, good.
It's all good.
I'm gonna, this is my 3rd big haul. So, this should be the mother load.
I get done docking here, I can tell you how much I have. At this point, I don't fucking know.
Here we go. Basic medicines, 4527, sold at bought at 323, selling at 4500.
Thank you for your cooperation, Commander. Apparently you scanned me. Woohoo!
2267384 confirmed. Okay, so what do we have now? We have 32 million. Okay. I need another 15 trips of this sort. Ugh. Can you just hang on for 1 sec? I have to go do something quickly.
Okay, no problem. I gotta go figure out what's up on.
Oh shit! I gotta go get my prescription. It's due at the pharmacy, so I have to take off right now. I'll be back on. I'll be back on in a little while. Okay, we'll talk to you in 30 minutes or so. Okay, bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have got to go do an errand, as I just mentioned, so we'll be logging off for now. But this is Commander Trium at Vizcano City in the BD-20-something system. Hang on here, where did I put it? There it is. Vizcano City in the STF-1774 system. And before we go, we'll be taking our ship from the previously uploaded shipyard and bringing it here instead of where it is. It'll take 34 minutes. That should be enough time for me to run my errand, and we will resume. Thank you so much again for watching. This is Commander Trium signing off for now.